There are countless strategies for doing everything we have in our life. Some good, some bad. The unfortunate thing is people only recognize the bad ones, right? And they don't go, wow, what if I better this strategy? I have a great relationship. What if I make it even better?
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. I'm on the line with James Santangelo. I had to get my head around that surname there, John.
You did it right. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, look, John and I were just talking a little bit about family and reasons for things being what they are. And you know what? Life is quite a busy set of circumstances that we need to put together in such a way that it makes sense. And on today's call, we're going to be talking a little bit about that. We're going to be talking about mastering your emotions, mastering your life, and importantly, how to master your business. Now, how do we do any of this stuff is probably one of the most important questions we're going to ask on today's call, John. But I'd love to learn a little bit more about you personally before we jump into the core of the call.
Yeah. You know, I probably started, because that was the question I just asked you before we got started. And it's probably no different than most people. You know, I think from what I do, I teach around the world, do a lot of NLP training. We'll get into that in a minute. It's a discovery process, isn't it?
Yes.
It's kind of like, you know, the challenge, though, is how are you taught? By whom? By what? What have you modeled when you were young to go out and really, truly live your life? Or as George Bernard Shaw said, to create your life, right? Because most people just go through life. We go to school, go to college, we get a job, supposed to have a family. And then usually it's the men, more women now, getting to about 40 years old or so, 50 years old, going, wow, what has my life become?
Yes.
I go to work, I play with the kids, if you have kids, go on vacation once a year, and I start the whole process over. And you're not really living. I call that surviving.
Existing.
You know, that's really what it is. This is the story that you just told me about you. It's like, I'm so interested in the how people do it, the process. And that's what NLP is all about, the process of how we go about doing our life. Mine was no different. You know, I went to school, basically halfway through college, I dropped out and go, I don't want to do this.
Yep.
I don't want to become another number. Yep. And so I started I have a couple businesses I run. I still have it today. And I'm like, this is not enough for me. I want to go out and do something different. I spent literally, Rick, 10 years trying to figure it out. 10 years going, if I could do anything, and anything was possible, what would my heart, what would my soul, my spirit want to do? And after a while, I literally only came to two conclusions. I like to teach, and I like to entertain. Because I was a professional magician when I was a kid, doing a lot of shows, did Vegas stuff, and I kind of gave that up after about 5 years. But I still like to entertain. So after a while, I thought, wow, I could do this kind of whole professional speaking thing. What would that take? Well, the internet wasn't around then in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had to go to workshops and go talk to people, hire coaches, and became a professional speaker, loved that business. And then I found NLP early in the 90s, late in the 90s, somewhere in there, after reading Tony Robbins and getting with his program. I thought, man, that's a great technology. This stuff should be taught in schools to kids.
Yes,
you know, unleashing their personal power. Yeah. And that was my quest from there. Once I learned NLP, became a trainer, went through different certifications. Now I'm working on my PhD in clinical hypnosis. And it's hopefully the world comes to me and says, hey, maybe you have something I need. Maybe there's something in there that you're teaching that you could help my life like it did me, like it did for you, for other people. That's kind of what we do, right? You're just doing it in a different way.
Yep. We're just trying to make the world a better place for us all to live in
Absolutely.
And exist in. And actually probably do more than just that existing, isn't it? It's about being the best version of yourself.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? Yeah. Really is. I mean, that's truly what it is. How often do people struggle? Every single day, and they don't have to. And that's the real detriment. and we're not taught that in school or from our parents. You know, we model our parents for certain things, but also we model their worst characteristics about them as well and bring that into childhood.
There's going to be some magic on this call today for everybody who is with us, and thank you for everybody who does tune in to listen to the show. And today you're not going to be let down, because we're just about to deep dive in what NLP actually is, and I'm hoping that you'll explain that for us, John. But you are currently located in Westlake Village, California. Is that where you still are located?
Yeah, so it's literally across the hill from Malibu, California, which we were on fire last year. We had to evacuate.
Yes.
And this year, the same thing happened again this year. We're about 2 miles away. The fire came. So Malibu is always in trouble every time, because the fire just rages over the hill, and hey, it's life, you know?
Yeah. And that's, I think that's probably a good segue into the coping mechanism with external challenges. I think that's relevant for us to talk about as we explore this.
Right. I mean, what's the difference of a fire that's going on, that's consuming your city, or, you know, a relationship that you're going through, a divorce, you know, your career exploding and you're losing money? There's no difference, really. The outside circumstances are irrelevant. It's how you handle them internally. That's the key. That's the gift, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think right now, one of the things we should explain is, what is NLP? If you could break it down for those who have never heard of this before, so they get a ground up experience.
Right. And the best way, through my teachings, my trainings, I like to use metaphors, because I think it breaks everything down in a simplistic way that people can wrap their head around it. So let me give you the background on it first. NLP was developed from a gentleman at the University of Santa Cruz. He was a 21-year-old kid, and he was asked by one of the most famous therapists at the time, his name was Fritz Perls. He goes, "Could you come in and transcribe some of my therapeutic sessions with me?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So he went in there and started writing. And after a couple, 3, 4, 5 sessions, you realize, wow, this stuff, if I literally just read this stuff back to someone else, could I get change in someone else? Well, he did, and he started distilling out all the garbage words and basically had a script, basically a technique, a methodology, and started forming. He was a crazy kid. He started forming classes at the university. He wasn't a professor, and he started teaching other people to do this. And then one of the linguist professors came in and said, "Hey, you're onto something here. You're using language to help people change. Let's work together." So Richard Bandler, the student, and John Grinder, the linguist professor, got together, and they started modeling, really copying some of the best change artists, which was Fritz Perls works on Gestalt therapy, Virginia Satir did family therapy, and Milton Erickson was one of the greatest hypnotherapists at the time. So they modeled them, and they wrote a couple of books, and they started putting classes together on this. Well, the technology became neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro means the mind-body connection.
Yeah.
And if you heard of Deepak Chopra before, Deepak kind of formulated this term of the body-mind. He said, you know, the mind is not separate from the body. And the interesting thing, Rick, is that before probably the early 80s, the AMA, at least the medical association here in America, they would work on the body, but never worked on the mind.
Yeah.
And so many organizations now are coming out, and they're working together spiritually, mentally, physically, chakra, energy, all this, because they know it's a part of the whole system. So neuro means the mind body, and then L for linguistic is, obviously the language that we talk, the internal dialogue that we have, our belief systems, and how we communicate with other people. And then the P is for programming. The program, or I like to break it down as a recipe. Let's say that's one of the metaphors. It's like a recipe. We have a recipe for driving our car. We have a recipe for success. We have a recipe for failure. We have one for brushing our teeth. There are countless strategies for doing everything we have in our life. Some good, some bad.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is people only recognize the bad ones.
Yeah, don't they?
Right? And they don't go, wow, what if I better this strategy? I have a great relationship. What if I make it even better? I have a good career. I'm going to enhance my career skills or my communication skills. We don't focus on the good normally.
Yeah.
We always focus on the bad, what's not working. That's kind of how people, as another metaphor, is kind of people drive their life. They drive their life like they drive their car. They're always looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
They're looking at where they've been and what's not working.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate side of I guess I don't want to say that, I don't want to blame the educational system. I do in a way, because there's so many great strategies out there for wealth, for relationships, and health. The three biggest problems that we have when we grow up, which usually is that we get out of college, get out of school: money, relationships, and our health.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic breakdown of it. It very, I guess, relative to how deep we could go in this topic, that's quite a simplistic version.
Right. I know, right?
And if we look at this and we say to ourselves, based on what you've just said, John, is this about looking more internally at our collective being, the way we think, the way we see the world, rather than, listening to external sources more often than not, like the marketing that we get bombarded with every single day? Because that would make it very difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what it is, Rick. Think about, just look at your email every day, how much information you're bombarded with. And you and I probably have thousands of lists that we subscribe to. But, if you walk around outside, you've got billboards, you've got salespeople out there, you've got advertising, you're constantly bombarded by people, communication with other people, right? So it's not so much what's external, it's what's going on internally. And that there lies the challenge, as you were just saying, is, how do you deal with the external events? Well, in NLP, we say the map is not the territory, meaning the menu is not the food, right? You look at a menu in a restaurant, it's not the food. It's just a map of the food. The same in life. What you internalize in here, the map you have in here, is not the territory out there. It's just a reflection of our beliefs, our body language that we take in, our physiology, other people's maps, other people's beliefs. All this we synthesize into some relative, I guess you could say, well, in NLP we say map, and it's just the easiest way to explain how we take in all this information and we utilize it to make decisions every single day to move our life forward or backwards, whatever that is.
Yeah, it seems to me like we have this compounding of perception that we form this, I guess, this dream vision of what we see externally. And
Literally,
I recall Tony Robbins saying, the best way forward is to get out of your own way.
Right. And like you, probably you've read books and gone to seminars and listened to workshops. I've done that 20 years of doing that. And the one that you just gave me the second point, the one thing that I've discovered out of reading all that and studying all that, Rick, because everybody's got a different philosophy about success. Yeah. Right. Whatever that is. But it really comes down to only two things. One is knowing what you want. Clarity is power. Clarity is power. Huge. Second, as you just said, getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
Can I give you a simple metaphor?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
So I give you a task and I say, hey, Rick, do me a favor, go to the store, pick up some milk, pick up some eggs, and pick up some bread. You go, okay. You get in the car, you know where the car is, you know where the store is, you go down the street, there's a couple lights, the stop signs, you go, somebody walked across the street, you go into the store, you can look around, you find it, get back in the car, pay for it, get back in the car, come back into the house, boom. Simple task. Now, if I say to you, Rick, do me a favor, I want you to go out and create a business where you hire 10 people this year and you make a minimum of $250,000. And all of a sudden your brain goes, whoa, wait a minute. Hello. No. Even when I start talking, people go, start a business? Are you kidding? Never mind the criteria. Exactly. So, because what happens is like one of the things Deepak Chopra says as well, is because it's the unknown.
Yes.
And the brain and body work together. Is one of the things Tony Robbins says, we say in NLP, is we do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. And so we want to avoid pain at all costs. So, and usually the pain is what's unknown. Yeah. It's the fight or flight mechanism. When it comes down to the physiology of the body and how the brain works to, capitulate our world, it's a matter of the fight or flight. Are we going to go for it or are we going to back away from it? That's it. That's all you do. You can only do two things. You can't go sideways. Yeah. You go forward or you go back. And so the brain goes, I can't do that. unless you've learned at a very young age, like you probably teach your kids, you can do anything you want. Just find a way, find a coach, find a plan, gather some information. You can do this, right? Where most of us didn't grow up in that kind of, surroundings or society where what's the first word you learn as a child? What's the first word you learn as a child when you're 6 months old?
Daddy?
No.
No. Yeah.
No. The word no. Don't touch that. No.
Yes, it's all negatively geared, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Because, and what's the intent behind it, really? A parent's intention is what? To keep them safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's never our intention. It's not. It's the response that we get back. So that's the ideal communication style. It's never my intent. It's what I get back from people. So our intention is well-meaning. Like what do they say? The road to success is laid with well-meaning intentions. Mm-hmm. And that's great. But if you can't find a way, then what does it matter? The goal.
Yes.
Right? And that's the getting out of your own way part. So I have a lot of clients that come to me and go, hey, I know what I want. There's some reason I can't get it. I can't go after it. It's not working. Great. Let's find out what's holding you back. And honestly, Rick, the thing that I've found working, deep like this is most of the challenges that we have are self-esteem issues. I'm not worthy, right? Yep. Your parents, again, I keep coming back to the parents because almost 90% of what we learn before we're 8 years old. And so who is really dictating that script by the time you're 8? Your primary caretakers, which are your parents. As well-meaning as they are, they're still saying, oh, we can't afford that. Oh, you'll never be able to do that. Oh, that's too hard.
Yes.
Right?
I've heard it. I recall.
Yeah, we all have. And again, it's well-meaning. Mm. And it's there, again, to protect us. The unconscious mind, which runs 90% of who we are, 90% is there to protect the body. So anything that's going to feel pain in the body, the unconscious mind goes, put the brakes on.
Even if it's just a psychological thing which doesn't physically hurt you.
Even if you've never experienced, never even heard the word before, I could say a word to you. I could make up a word and go, cha-cha-ma-shash. Mm-hmm. But the way that I say it, your brain goes, whoa, hold on a second.
Back off.
Right?
Yeah.
Because and we don't even know what it means yet. So the brain is constantly analyzing our environment for things that could hurt us and harm us. And unfortunately, some things we don't know, like, I don't know how to start a business. I don't know how to go up and talk to a woman or talk to a man. I don't know how to go out and get fit. I don't even know where to begin. Your brain goes, okay, then stop, because that's going to bring us pain. And that's the unfortunate thing. That's the sad part about literally life, is that we don't grasp so many wonderful opportunities that are out there just because that fear is always right here in the back of your mind waiting to pounce on you in some way.
I have a question. I wonder, what is, really the worst thing that can happen to someone if they do fail in business, let's say?
Well, that's a great question. We call that a reframe, right? So it's like you give me a statement and I just turn it around to make it better. But literally, this is a true story. When Richard Bandler, when he was developing NLP, he went to most of the psychologists, and he said, "Give me your worst patients. Give me your worst, because if I can help them, I can help anybody." Oh, and he would do miracles because he didn't have to go through the typical channels that most psychologists have to go through. You get right down to the nitty-gritty and find out what works or has worked in the past with somebody else. Like, we have a phobia cure.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to a therapist and want to get rid of a phobia, it could be years. Yeah. Because transactional psychology is about talking, and hopefully you find a way to overcome it yourself. Where if somebody came to me and it was a true phobia, like a spider phobia or snake phobia, elevator phobia, we can eliminate it in 20 minutes. Only because there's a recipe, there's a process for it. Because your brain's no different than mine. Mm-hmm. You just have different information, different data, right? So we just come about it so differently. And so the idea is that if you can find the way, and then hopefully step around yourself. I mean, literally, it's a metaphor for getting out of your own way, because that's going to be the biggest challenge that we have. I do a workshop for kids every year, 300 high school kids, They're all over Southern California, and it's a leadership camp, and they're amazing. They spend 4 days learning this stuff, leadership skills, communication skills, speaking skills, ropes courses. They go through stuff that they would never probably ever do in their entire lifetime. And I tell them, you guys are the 1% of the 1%. Because if I had something like that when I was a kid, I'd have jumped on that. Right? I would have like, oh, sign me up. But most people, no, I'm not going to waste 4 of my days. 4? Are you kidding me? I could be out socializing on Twitter with my friends? Nah, that's not going to work.
Yeah, I can see how, you can break this down to impact positively any element of your life, personally, professionally. I'd love to, if we could, John, deep dive into Discovering NLP, the book.
This book, you mean?
That particular book, yes, with a wonderful blue cover. I love blue.
It's now that I look at it, you have the exact same color blue on your website. That's so funny.
There you go.
Because it's a universal color of warmth, they say, right?
Yeah, well, we talked about trust parameters, didn't we? But I'd love to know how this came about that you've written this wonderful book, because I've actually checked it out on Amazon. I've seen the reviews. They're very positive. Could you share?
Yeah, it's really simple. I mean, it was more out of a necessity than a want. When I started doing the certification courses, my course runs 12 days, 6 weekends long. It's 10 hours a day. And it's like one of the things Tony Robbins says, it's an immersion course. You're getting in there, we're showing you, we're teaching you, you're working with other students, you're working on them, they're working on you, you elicit some of their problems, you dive deep into who you are. So we have to have a safe environment working in the class. Yeah. You're not going to come in there going, oh, I know, I have a problem once in a while. No, some people come out of there just bawling their eyes out because for the first time in their life, they've realized there's somebody that actually wants to listen to me.
Yeah.
Literally, right? Because one of the things I say in life is there's 2 things that we opt for. One is appreciation. The second is recognition. And if you don't get those as kids, you're going to grow up. And here's the sad part, Rick. Right now, I don't know if you heard about this. There was a shooting here 1 year ago today in California. It's called Borderline. It was a bar and grill. Mm-hmm. And I work there. I teach dance lessons there once a month. And I was there a couple nights before, and 2 of my friends got shot. And today's the 1-year anniversary. And I know the kid that did it. I didn't know him personally. He was 28 years old, wrecked family, divorced, lived with his mom. And I know that he was looking for recognition. And that's what most people do with a gun. They're looking for recognition. And so they want, I go out and kill somebody, I harm somebody, I hurt somebody, I get recognized. That's a sad way to get recognized, but it's just life. You can't stop it. You can try to have a precursor to it. Hopefully that maybe we can work on, having better families, like you were saying with your kids. You took the time to be with your kids. I love you for that, buddy. Seriously. That's a godsend, because that's where I had a bumper sticker once said, world peace starts at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right there. Because if your kids have that gift of being appreciated and loved and recognized, they're going to go out and replicate that again.
Well,
right?
Not to turn the focus on me, but I recognize that because I had a pretty tough upbringing.
Yeah, that's what happens.
It wasn't ideal.
You look at one of 2 things happens, Rick. We either become our parents or we move away from our parents.
Second.
Right? Second for me too, right? And I probably would assume that most people in this business like this probably move away from what we learned. Go, I've got to learn a different way to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a very tough process.
It is a lot of self-discovery, isn't it? Going inside. I remember listening to an audio program one day when I'm at work, and Rick, literally, I dropped to the ground crying. Mm-hmm. It hit me so hard. I'm like, this is it. This is, I call them weeds. You can pull the weeds, but if you don't get the root,
it comes back.
The weed's going to grow back. And I pulled the root that day.
Yep.
And that's a lot of self-discovery. You have to look yourself in the mirror and say, I don't like myself like this. I want to become better. And you have to focus on the better part, not I don't like myself, right? Which is what most people do. I don't like myself, so what do? They go out and take it out on other people. They become bullying, right? They go out and
recognition and all the rest of it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So getting back to the book, when we're doing the course, when we're putting the course together, I have people fly in from all over the world, spend 6 weeks with us. all the other programs out there were so complicated. And I like simple. I like simplistic where people go, oh, I get that. I don't have to explain it 100 times, right?
Yeah.
So all the other NLP books, which they're great books if you know what you're talking about. If you've gone through a certification, even some of them are more complicated. So I said, I'm going to write a book for my students, literally. Yeah. So 4-year process, and I dumbed it down, not in that negative way. I made it simple enough where they read it and you go, oh, I get it, because in the front of every chapter is a metaphor for life that we've all gone through. And then I solved the problem. So there's the story about the book.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I can tell you've got a lot of positive energy and you're very uplifting. I know that you do a lot of speaking. What's coming up for you in the near future? Do you have any speaking engagements? Where can people find you?
I kind of stopped speaking. I mean, I do it once or twice a year. Before I was doing it like once or twice a month, and like you were saying before, it's a nightmare traveling all over the United States. I went to Australia once. I taught there for a week. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, by the way. Where was I? In
Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide,
Melbourne.
There you go.
No, Sydney. That's right. Yeah, the Opera House. Yes, the Opera House. Oh,
close, but about 300 miles.
Yeah,
away.
Right. That's a long flight. Let me tell you, pal. That was a 24-hour day.
Oh, yes, I know.
So most of the work I do now is right here in my hometown. I do workshops local. I'm writing a sequel to this book called Discovering Trance, and it's just about what we were talking about, building self-confidence and building self-esteem. It's not going to be a therapeutic model for uncovering demons. It's going to be just how to build your confidence and how to build your self-esteem. And then I've got a home study course we're putting together right now. That's hopefully going to be done in a couple of months. So most of it, like we were just talking about before, is online. Yep. It's deliverable, it's palatable. You can't be in front of every single, like Tony does. He's in a different city every 2 weeks. It's got to be a nightmare. Right? It is. It's truly amazing the energy he has to do that, traveling all over, and it's a lot of work, Yeah. So mine is doing it from the laptop or from the phone, because most of our business now is through that cell phone. Yep. And if you can deliver it through there, God bless you.
Absolutely. Whatever way you can get your message out there, John, you are doing a great job. So where is the website that people are going to go to start this journey?
Real simple. It's 5 letters, LA, like in Los Angeles, LANLP.com. And if they go there, there's a link at the top that says free NLP mini course. They sign up for that, and it'll send them a lesson every other day for 14 days, 7 lessons. And it gives you simple things to turn around. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the lessons is eliminate 3 words from your vocabulary: try, but, and problem. Try, there's no such try, and you do or don't, right?
Very Yoda.
But, right, Yoda. The word but, which negates everything I said before that. Rick, I really love your podcast, but,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So we use the word and. It's a causal linkage. It's the word and the word problem, to recondition the subconscious mind to use the word challenge instead. It seems more of a molehill than a mountain. And when you start reconditioning your unconscious mind, that simple level, like simple tricks like that, you go out and, as we were saying in the beginning, you can go out and change the world.
Thank you so much for sharing everything you've shared.
God bless. Namaste, buddy. So, absolutely.
Everybody's on the call today. This is more about just the physical body. It's about the psychological mindset. It's about how you perceive the world around you. Definitely reach out to John at the links that I will provide below this post. John, thank you very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business Show today.
Of course. Thanks, buddy. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.